Welcome back. This is the second part of a two-part series. If you haven't yet seen the first video that leads up to this one, please check out the link in the description below. We're picking up discussing a quote that helps us understand how to best interact with people, especially in online conversations where we may disagree passionately and find ourselves on different sides of the issue. The problem that we usually run into is that we make caricatures of the other person. Today's quote is one from Dennett, and he summarizes the 4 rules for conversation from Anatol Rapoport. We're discussing the 3rd and 4th rules in this episode, and I'd like to add a little bit of advice from my own experiences to finish it off. Number 3. You should mention anything you've learned from your target. If you're a brick wall and you're not yielding any ground, so to speak, if you're not saying, "Oh yeah, no, you're right about this," or "I've never thought of it that way," or "I haven't heard it put in that way and it makes sense." If you're not willing to point out something that you've learned from the person you're speaking with, then no one is ever going to want to discuss anything with you. This is a good way to show your humanity. Show that you're not putting on a performance, you're not pretending to be interested, but you really are interested in the topic. Number 4, only then are you permitted to say so much as a word of rebuttal or criticism. Keep it short and specific. People can't handle a mountain of ideas all at once. This is something that I'm especially guilty of. When the conversation has opened up to what I think, I tend to give videos and articles and links to books that the person should read, and I often tend to overwhelm the other person. Now, let's think about this a little bit. If someone is disagreeing with you on a topic and they open the door slightly to hearing your point of view, that doesn't mean they want to become a full-time college student and dedicate hours to studying your point of view. No, they started off on the other side. That's probably where they're comfortable. And none of us have the time to spend all day long studying things that we initially have no care for. So those are the 4 points from Dennett, who summarized them from Rapoport. I really hope I'm saying his name right. I have a hard time with Russian names. I like to add a few things too. One thing that I've often made the mistake of is I figure that even though something is a controversial subject, it really is an open and shut case. And if people just learned about the support from my side, then 100% of the population would eventually agree with me. Of course, that's not the case with these controversial subjects. Everyone has a reason for believing in their side. If they didn't have a reason for believing in it, there would be no controversy. The person you're talking to usually isn't the only one they know who believes in that. Usually their friends agree with them and the people they respect agree with them. And the opinions of those people matter to them way more than your opinion does, usually. They aren't just dumb. They aren't just stupid. They aren't just foolish because they're on the other side. They have a reason for believing in it, and that should mean something. And of course, debates are rarely about facts. They're usually more about principles. I mean, if scientific studies support you, then it's really easy to say, no, it's all about the science. The science supports it, and I only care about science. But usually what I've seen, and I see this all over the place, no matter what side it is, when the scientific facts aren't so supportive of their position, then they just fall back on principles. Well, this is what I believe should be the case, because it's what I believe. Of course, science matters, and of course, it really should be the foundation of what we consider true or false. But we shouldn't be so foolish as to think that everyone is a robot, and if you just insert enough data, they'll change their mind. That's not the way we are. People, we're all about meaning, we're all about belief, and that's something that should be kept in mind when you're having these debates. Just a couple of last notes. One thing when I'm viewing a debate or I'm part of a debate off the internet, I can't believe how common it is for people to use that voice. When people describe your point of view, they all of a sudden pretend to be some really dopey person and they use a really dopey voice. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's so disrespectful. We really shouldn't do that. And another thing that I see that really should be avoided is the common practice that I see where people start talking to the audience. They don't talk to you as if you're on the same level, having a debate, having a real conversation. They start to talk past you as if there was this massive audience that they're scoring points for and that they're giving punchlines for some kind of applause. That's so ridiculous. If you're talking to someone, talk to that someone. Don't turn it into some reality TV show. That's tremendously disrespectful in my opinion. And we all know this. We shouldn't assume we know everything about the other person. Just because they believe A, B, and C doesn't mean they believe D. Just because they belong to one political party or belong to one church doesn't mean that they agree with everyone who's ever belonged to that same organization. If you need clarification, ask more questions. Questions are gold. Questions are the currency in these conversations. People usually don't mind answering questions. It's hard to use them too often. Give the other person a chance to change their opinion without feeling like they're being bullied into it. If you overwhelm them with a tremendous argument, then at some point they might feel like they have no choice but to give up on their old ideas. And that makes them defensive. You know, human nature, it doesn't always go in our advantage, right? Give them an out. Make it about the issue. Always make it about the issue. Don't make it about them. Don't call them whatever label you want to give them. Don't approach the conversation with those labels. Treat them as someone who's maybe just been given bad information. Approach the situation as they're someone who's smart, someone who's just like you, but they've just been told something different. They've approached the issue from the other direction. That's it. If we make it about the ideas, then people tend to become less defensive. Now, of course, all of these things from my own experience, all of this good advice that we'll get from people who claim to have all the answers about how to win debates, it only works out if both people are playing by the rules. And no matter what, you're going to come across people who will love more than anything else to break all of these rules and make a caricature out of you. And when that happens, you just have to be the bigger person. Don't turn it into a mudslinging contest. Be respectful, be good, and keep it open so that maybe you and this person can get on a more honest level, get on more even footing in the future. And that's, I think, the most important thing. The truth isn't going to go bad. It's not like food that you've kept on the shelf for too long. The truth can wait. If someone isn't ready, if someone isn't quite open for your side of the debate, that's fine. Give it some time. Give them some breathing room. We often fall into a lot of these arguments, and we often damage relationships unnecessarily because we feel like today is the day that they have to change their mind. Well, it doesn't have to be today, and we need to be okay with that. And with that last thought, I want to thank you for tuning in to this extra long episode today. If you haven't had a chance to view part 1 of this 2-part series, I've added a link in the description. Be sure to check it out. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation, and I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Take care.